You look at old photos of yourself, and you barely recognize that person. Same face, same name. But something behind the eyes is completely different. You don't miss who you were. You're just surprised that person was ever you. This is the psychology of self-transformation. And nobody warned you how much it would cost. Let me explain. There was a version of you that had to die. Not physically, but the person you used to be, the way you used to think, the things you used to accept. They had to go. And that death wasn't quick. It wasn't painless. It was slow. It was messy. And some days, it felt like you were betraying yourself just to become yourself. But you did it anyway, because staying the same was no longer an option. You didn't transform because you wanted to. You transformed because you had to. Something broke. Something shattered. Something happened that made the old version of you impossible to maintain. Maybe it was a relationship that destroyed you. Maybe it was a failure that humiliated you. Maybe it was a moment of clarity where you finally saw who you had become, and you hated what you saw. Whatever it was, it broke you open. And from that crack, something new started to grow. Here's what nobody tells you about transformation. It starts with destruction. You can't build a new self on top of an old foundation that's already rotting. You have to tear it down first. The beliefs that kept you small, the habits that kept you stuck, the relationships that kept you comfortable but never challenged you. You had to let them all go. And that felt like losing everything. Because in a way, you were losing the person everyone expected you to be. You were losing the identity you spent years constructing. You were losing the safety of being predictable, of being known, of fitting into the box people had built for you. Transformation isn't addition. It's subtraction first. You had to unlearn before you could learn. You had to empty before you could fill. You had to grieve who you were before you could become who you needed to be. Here's where it gets lonely. The people who knew the old you don't always recognize the new you. Some of them loved who you were, and your transformation feels like a rejection of them. You've changed, they say. And they don't mean it as a compliment. They mean, you're not who I needed you to be anymore. They mean, you're making me uncomfortable. They mean, come back to who you were so I don't have to question who I am. But you can't go back. Even if you wanted to, even if you tried. The old you is gone. And the people who can't accept that will eventually fade away. That's the price of transformation. You don't just change yourself, you change your entire ecosystem. Some relationships won't survive it. Some friendships will die quietly. Some people will become strangers. Not because anyone did anything wrong, but because you're no longer the person who fit into their life, and they're no longer the people who fit into yours. Here's what nobody talks about. The grief. You're supposed to celebrate growth. You're supposed to be proud of how far you've come. And you are. But there's also a sadness that no one acknowledges. A mourning for the version of you that didn't make it. The innocent one, the naive one, the one who believed things would be easier, the one who didn't know yet how hard life could hit. That person is gone. And even though you're stronger now, sometimes you miss the softness they had. Sometimes you wish you could have kept a little bit of that light before the world made you build walls around it. Transformation often starts in childhood without you realizing it. Maybe you grew up in an environment where who you really were wasn't acceptable. So you built a version of yourself that would be loved, that would be safe, that would survive. You became what they needed you to be. The quiet one, the responsible one, the easy one, the one who didn't cause problems. And you wore that mask so long, you forgot it was a mask. You thought that was just who you were, until one day, something cracked, and you realized that was never you. That was a character you played to survive. Your transformation isn't you becoming someone new. It's you finally becoming who you always were underneath. Here's the thing about real transformation. It doesn't happen in one moment. It happens in 1,000 small choices. The first time you said no when you used to say yes. The first time you walked away from something that wasn't serving you. The first time you chose yourself and felt guilty about it, but did it anyway. The first time you sat in silence instead of filling it with distractions. The first time you looked at yourself honestly and didn't run from what you saw. Transformation is built in the quiet moments no one sees. In the nights you cried and still woke up the next day choosing to keep going. In the habits you built when no one was watching. In the boundaries you held even when people pushed back. In the promises you made to yourself and actually kept. Here's what people don't understand. Transformation isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. Honest about who you are, honest about what you want, honest about what you're no longer willing to accept. The old you was built on lies, not malicious lies, survival lies. Lies like, I'm fine. Lies like, I don't need much. Lies like, this is just who I am. Transformation happens when you stop believing those lies. When you finally admit, I'm not fine, I need more. And this isn't who I have to be. That honesty is terrifying. But it's also the doorway to everything you've been looking for. Here's what I want you to understand. You're not crazy for changing. You're not a traitor for outgrowing people. You're not selfish for choosing yourself. You're doing what humans have always done. Evolving, adapting, becoming. The caterpillar doesn't apologize for becoming a butterfly. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't try to fit back into the cocoon. It simply becomes what it was always meant to be. And so are you. The transformation you're going through isn't random. It's necessary. It's the natural result of everything you've survived, everything you've learned, everything you've finally decided you deserve. You're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself, maybe for the first time. So here's what I want you to do. Stop apologizing for your evolution. Stop shrinking back to make others comfortable. Stop explaining your growth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't owe anyone the old version of you. That person served their purpose. They got you here. But you're not them anymore. And that's not a tragedy. That's the whole point. Transformation isn't something that happened to you. It's something you chose. Every single day, you chose to keep going, to keep growing, to keep becoming. And that takes more courage than most people will ever understand. So if no one has told you lately, let me say it. I'm proud of you. For changing, for growing, for having the guts to become someone new when staying the same would have been so much easier. You did the hard thing. And you're still here. That's not nothing. That's everything. Now close this video. Look in the mirror. And thank the person looking back at you for surviving, for transforming, for refusing to stay stuck. They deserve that. Before you go, tell me, what did you have to let go of to become who you are now? A relationship, a belief, a version of yourself. Drop it in the comments. And if you're in the middle of transformation right now, still becoming, still growing, still figuring it out, comment. Still becoming. Let's see how many of us are in the process of turning into who we were always meant to be. You're not alone in this. even if transformation feels like the loneliest thing you've ever done.